Welcome to my budget deck channel where I try to make decks as cheap and playable as possible. So if this is something you'd be interested in, then why not subscribe? Today with another series of 5 games ranked in a row. Usually I do 10, but this time it is World Championship qualifier time. Very, very important. And yes, I thought 5 is a bit better because I'm still working on holiday content because I'm going to be off in a foreseeable time, and also I want to grind as much as possible, so getting this done now so I can still do some content later on. But these 5 duels are, I want to say high level, but it's like level around like 10 to 12, which you see we're going up. Little spoiler here already. But first duel, we are going first, and we are playing against Tearlaments. Never has been a good matchup for us in any of these series. I think I'm like game one so far against Tearlaments, and the rest was always very, very, very terrible. But we'll see, maybe today is the day where we can change this a little bit. We have a decent starting hand if they don't have any disruptions for our summons. We have Mothman, so we can technically extend a little bit because we have some fires in hand. Then we go into Link 2 and can summon them from the hand, and so on and so on and so on. So technically not a bad hand at all. 1 disruption for the opponent's turn. We get possibly to beat out Nash Blossom that they didn't have in the end, so that's fine. We go into Beat here. Beat then gets met with a Havness. Oof. Havness can completely turn the tides here of this duel already, and I've merely played 2 measly cards at this point. They mill some stuff. They do hit a Tearlaments. Gladly they don't hit any of the Shizu cards. That would have been very, very devastating here. But this doesn't matter overly because we do have Forbidden Chalice, a card that comes in handy, that this is the budget option and not actually Infinite Impermanence or Effect Veiler, because now we can use it during our turn, and this will be very crucial because they decide to go for the Shadow play, which is usually, if you look at it, very good because they know we can only summon 1 more, and then we can't really do much, and we can't attack yet. And also we can pop Shadow window with our effects. So this would technically be a very, very, very good play if we didn't have Forbidden Chalice. If they went into Kid Colossus, we could have at least still stopped it, but we would have had the issue that they could have comboed off a bit more during the next turn, but we also still have the monster negate for it, and so on and so on and so on. So depends on how they would have played it, but they played it like this, so we do not have an issue with this board whatsoever. We just negate this here, and now we can feel free to go into any form of combo. I decided to go for a Mayhem Fire here because I wanted to get more cards onto the board. Not sure if that was the right play, but I felt like that made the most sense. Here it comes our Link Karibo combo with Philo, so we can summon 2 and we don't lose our Link monster. Now we can use the Link monster to go into Folgo. Didn't really matter if we use the Link Karibo combo here, but now we technically have Link Karibo in rotation as well, and that can be quite helpful for keeping certain monsters on board, especially the negate, because it's summoned in defense position on 2,200 attack isn't all that much. So in theory, having a Link Karibo on board would be nice, but I decided to not go for that route anyway. We get 2 hits with Raphael, and we get 1 Ash Blossom, very, very important here. Also, we still have some stuff in the graveyard, some things that we can be doing, but decided to end here. Technically, for the next turn, we only have 1 discard for 2 effects, but there is something that you have to keep in mind. We still have Rex. Rex can still add 1 card to our hand, so technically, once we use the first one, we can just chain Rex and then add a second one to hand, depending on what they're up to. So we will be wondering how they are going to be playing around their own Shadow window now, and they have obviously the field spell. They always draw the 1-off field spell against me. I don't know what it is, but it always happens. We have the Ash Blossom here. I felt like it was a bit better than using the effect of Wiz already, because they technically have some spell cards that make our life a bit miserable, and usually all the stuff that would Ash Blossom usually would be a monster effect, but they can with the field spell now attack over our Raphael, so it's a bit annoying. There's ways that we can be dealing with this. So they attack into a Folgo, not into the monster negate, which made me feel like they didn't have any monster effects they could be using anymore because they ran out of Tearlaments cards in their hand, and nothing like this did anything for them. Even a normal summon doesn't do anything because they can't really exist that off, because this is a level 4 now, so if they level 3, so if they have the level 4, the level 2 doesn't do that much. The 2 would have obviously milled some more stuff, but I guess they didn't have that. So we use the Rex effect here, adding our Folgo back to our board because they went to the end step, so it didn't really overly matter that much. And I wanted to get a summon in before Winda if they have something that stops us from being able to attack over Winda, which they shouldn't have because we still have 2,800 attack points. Really think they should have gotten rid of this, but even that I could have gotten back anyway, so it doesn't matter too much here. We now have some place that we can be doing. Drawn into Rookie for Hire, very, very strong as well. I decided to go into the battle phase first so we can get some draws in and also put up a very nice board. I could have done some play beforehand, but didn't really see the need to because I couldn't have finished anyway with the summons that I was limited to, and now we get way more cards that we can use our combos with, so I felt like that was a little bit better. Using this one to go into another beat then triggers the effect by getting Strategist out of the graveyard. Beat can then add 1 Rex for the next turn because we still need the discards, and with this we have multiple different options because if we discard Rex, then we can use the Rex effect to add some other card back to our hand. So this is technically 2 monsters in the hand. You can really tell how good Rex is for the deck in general. It does so much. The only thing that doesn't is special summon a monster from your hand. Problematic, but yeah, sometimes that is a bit of an issue. So what we have here is a Dlvl, we have Forbidden Chalice, we have 1 monster negate, we have 1 spell negate, and technically another draw 3, but we don't have a pop, so that should not come up unless they decide to ram their monster into ours. They normal summon the Shirian, that's what I kind of thought. Maybe, I don't know why they didn't use the mill effect from hand, maybe they were scared that I'm going to negate that, so yeah, in the end it would have done kind of the same. I would still have tried it though. Does it make much of a difference? Because this card doesn't destroy, which is good for us in that sense, because then they don't get the graveyard effect, but they could have still normal summoned it afterwards, so I don't know why they didn't at least try to use the effect. So uses up some of my resources, but it is what it is. In the end, wouldn't have made much of a difference. Then I negate the effect of Scream, because Scream would also mill 3 cards, and I don't want that to happen. So negating the effect of this one here, considering they only have 1 monster on board and 1 card in their hand and 1 trap card already set, maybe they shouldn't have given that one away either. In the end step, I decide to trigger the Strategist effect and get some cards back to my hand, have Donner now ready, so I can pop the card and go for game the next turn. That's exactly what we're attempting to do, at least, because we can now pop this card and stop the effect in the graveyard, so they cannot fusion summon as well, which is exactly what we're going to be doing. Negate the effect. Technically could have just attacked over it by battle and it would have still been fine, but I wanted to see if that would work in this case. Very reckless play in general, so yeah, didn't matter overly. Possibly should not have done this in case they had something that stopped my effect here. If this was a card that negated the effect of Raphael, then I would have been very disappointed. And now moving on to the next replay, we're keeping it going. There's going to be 4 more, and they're all kind of doozies one way or another. Alright, second duel, we are going second, and you know this is never a good one, because going second with these decks without running like a massive hand trap lineup, which you can, if you have all the hand traps, then obviously in for hire that's very good, but if you run a budget build, then you won't have all of them. You might have them at like a tiny amount, so that's why we have things like Book of Moon instead, and now they can obviously combo off quite well, because they are playing Adamancipator, and Adamancipator is a massive combo deck that you really need to keep in check with some hand traps if you're going second, because otherwise you don't have much of a chance, because the board that they can put up is so oppressive. With Block Dragon still being around, they can do crazy stuff, and this was just before Block Dragon, so they have 1 Omni Negate already, and technically can link off into some other shenanigans, and now it's getting even worse. Who would have thought? Yay, adding 3 cards from your deck to your hand that all basically do stuff. That is a bit strong. I don't know. Nobody could have foreseen that. It is what it is. We have to deal with it now, and you can already see we do have some plays till they will go into something that will be problematic for us, which is Appaloosa, because Appaloosa basically negates all of our plays, and there's not much we can be doing against it. Dragite also stops us from doing something, depends on what we're drawn into, and here's the Appaloosa. I'll be trying it anyway, because maybe they don't know how Ginger Mothman interacts with Appaloosa, and they might negate 1 or 2, and yeah, don't really think so. I thought maybe I could get rid of the Omni Negate and they would keep the Dragite, but they did not. They also have Maxi in their hand, very fun. Now we draw into something else that does stuff, and they have Ash Blossom as well, so here's that. I thought maybe they're going to negate this. At this point, doesn't really matter though, because Appaloosa itself had us down to the wire, and now they are just going to be attacking and finishing the game here. Nothing much that we could have been doing about this, especially with a hand that is so reliant on monster effects going off, and a 3000 attack point Appaloosa is nothing that you can easily beat over. This is where, for example, the Kaiju that I always splash in here in these kind of decks would have come in handy. Sadly, obviously, did not draw this while they had a crazy board and also Maxi and Ash Blossom, which usually is enough already to stop this deck, kind of. They didn't even need that. They had enough resources themselves. Let's move on to the next one. Another one where we are going second, but this time we came prepared, at least a little bit. We drew into our one of Infinite Impermanence, not too bad, and we have a Book of Moon for any follow-up plays if they are playing a monster deck. If they're playing a set 5 Labyrinth or whatnot Eldritch kind of variant, then we probably will be still screwed. It is what it is. I feel like lots of budget decks aren't really equipped to deal with very well control-y trap decks, but no, they're playing heroes. This should be fairly easy-ish to get off, because now we can stop them from using this card. So they have already normal summoned, and the only thing we have to be dealing with now is Darklaw, and we have Book of Moon. Yay! Doesn't really matter to us at all. And even then, yes, the graveyard is kind of important for hire, but it's not like crazy important. It does a lot, and especially with the new cards, it does a lot. No idea why they Ash Blossom here, but I played this through my head. Even if they didn't Ash Blossom this, I would have had one more card in hand, and then went to Folgo. If they ashed Folgo Summon effect, then I would have still been able to draw 3 cards, and so on and so on and so on, but we would have been significantly worse off depending on what they have in hand, because we obviously wouldn't have had any negate if the Folgo effect didn't go through, but we possibly would have drawn into some other stuff then. So I don't know why they ashed this. They clearly don't know what Fires do, and they just saw activate, so they activated. Yeah, it is what it is, but even if they didn't, then we would still be okay at least. We now have added some stuff to our hand. They could have done something else, but I didn't really want to go for like the monster negate anything, because I don't have any other plays here that I could have used. We get to draw 3 cards anyway, so I thought, let's see, maybe add Rookie for Hire. We can still do plays after the battle phase then, and see where this leads us with the 3 extra cards that we get. But obviously we don't get 3 extra cards, we get 1 extra card because we are missing 1 monster on board, something that I messed up at the time, because you get so used to activating this card's effect. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna draw 3, right? I'm just gonna draw 3, but no, you have to actually control 3 for higher monsters on board to get this effect of something you should be learning by now. That's a very educational video here. Learn from my mistakes, but the combos still work out. We still have some stuff that we can do. We have to use Rex's effect now. Could have done all of this probably before the battle phase. I wasn't convinced I was going to be able to finish the game, but plays are plays, and now we can use some more shenanigans here. We can get 4 cards excavated, because that's the right chain link order, and hopefully get something that is very, very helpful. I decided to go for the for higher monster, and that's when they concede. We are at the 4th replay. So far we've done quite well. You can clearly see this deck has potential, but it also is very easily shut down by certain cards, because you do need a certain amount of higher monsters on board, and if one of your effects gets negated, there's not all that much you can be doing about it. This time we drew an okay amount of higher monsters. We drew 1 Mothman, so we technically can extend if something goes wrong, but we don't have enough for higher monsters really to do stuff like this. But even with Mothman, we can still use Rookie for Hire, for example, and then go into beat, so it's not a bad one at all. But this time I didn't want to use it, because I did not want to by accident discard Nibiru. The rest would have been kind of fine, but Nibiru is something that I wanted to keep in case they do have something from a place, so I can at least retaliate during their turn if they play a combo deck. So what I decided to do here is go for Donpa first, and then use Rookie for Hire. Very, very dangerous play, because if they have an Ash Blossom, this tributes for cost, then I'm completely screwed, because all I can do is Mothman. But I thought at this point, I don't know how good the play is of possibly Mothman here and lose Nibiru, or use Donpa's effect, summon this one, then go into the Link 2 that does nothing, because then you just get the same 2 back, and it doesn't all matter that much. Could have used Donpa's effect before, and probably should have, to summon Bravo, and then done the whole combo. Would have been a tiny bit better, but I wanted to still have an option to trigger beat as well, and that is my train of thought here. It was the most risky one, but I think it pays off the most if your opponent can't stop it, and only Ash Blossom can stop it. So it's statistically not that likely that's going to happen, but we all know Master Duel, so it might happen. But I didn't in the end, so beat comes out, and we can actually trigger the effect of it. Now we get 1 Rex, and we can still summon that Rex, and Rex searches things. And here is important, I use the effect of Bravo to chain block the search effect by Rex, something that can come out quite a lot, because all of them do have some effects that can be used to chain block things. And yeah, that is something very, very important, because that is how you can get your searches through, and also utilize card effects that might not be as good as you would want them to be. But here it actually does its job and would prevent an Ash Blossom, but obviously it didn't really matter here, because if they would have had an Ash Blossom, they should have already used it on the card before. getting into Main for Hire because we've already used the other one. Now getting Folgo out, Folgo summon something, but I wanted to have more monsters on board, so the effect of Dlvl triggers, like, at least searches 2 cards. One doesn't search 2 cards but excavates 2 cards, and I wanted a Donpa for the other turn. It's one of the combos I haven't shown off so far, but it's a very, very strong one. So let's see what we can get here. We can get into another Rookie for Hire. I could have set this card and just hoped the whole Donpa combo and draw into 3 was enough, but I wanted to be sure to have one for Hire card in hand for the monster effect negate, and we pass turn here. So what the board is like is 1 monster negate, we have 1 Donpa pop because we have 1 Rex in the graveyard and we can special summon either of those 2, so that isn't too bad either. Then we draw 3 cards and we still have 1 Nibiru, so I don't want to say plenty of plays, but a decent amount of plays and follow up for the next turn. They have a Cyber Dragon and I shotgun the Rex here because, and this is very important, Cyber Dragon has an extra deck monster that can contact fuse with Cyber Dragon and your monster in your extra monster zone, and I really wanted that draw 3, so I thought possibly the monster negate is gonna be, and the Nibiru is gonna be enough to stop them from doing what they're doing, and usually it is. Might have been a bit reckless to fire it here and kept the pop for later on, because Cyber Dragons are somewhat easily disruptible with like 1 monster negate, 1 pop, and Nibiru actually. So in the end, depends on what you wanted to do. I wanted to get the draw 3 off, so that is what I went for, and also they lose 1 card, so it's not too bad in the end. They search some herds because they have some other plays. They can discard this and get another Cyber Dragon because they're playing the Cyber Dark variant, but not so much focused on the Cyber Darks, but more focused on the Cyber Dragons, kind of. I drew into an Ash Blossom here actually with the draw of 3, so that's very good. Also the one of Ash Blossom, I guess sometimes you are lucky, so I could negate Cybernetic Horizon. Not that it matters too much, but it can search them quite a lot of things. I do know the choke point of this deck though when it comes to the Cyber Darks at least, so there's that one where you don't want them to have Power Bond and then be able to fuse on the graveyard. Sadly I don't have the spell negate here, so I had to kind of watch out a little bit because Chimera on board searches the Power Bonds and we don't want that. See, now this is where the combo comes into play. This is what I was talking about before. They can go into Chimera Tech and just link off my Folgo, and if I wouldn't have popped the Cyber Dragon before, then I wouldn't have been able to get all the stuff that I have now and have lots of plays for the next turn. Could have backfired obviously because they technically could have had enough plays if I didn't draw into Ash Blossom to OTK me here, and that would have been a bit annoying. But if they would have had, possibly I would have been able to use Nibiru. Who knows? We will never find out because I did draw Ash Blossom, and yeah, sometimes luck plays a factor in a card game. Who would have thought? Nobody. So could have negated the effect of Cyber Dark Horn here, but I kind of wanted both of these cards for the next turn, so I decided not to because I knew they can't finish me anyway, and I would have lost Raphael anyway because of this card having enough attack to attack over it. So it didn't really matter too much here if I use the effect or not, but now I have more resources for my turn, which is very, very important. We draw into Rex, very nice card, can help us do lots of things because we now save our normal summon, and here is where you can decide which card you want to go for. I felt like the monster was a bit better, but probably the other way around. I mean, I've already had one Rookie for Hire, so it was probably the right kind of call. Sometimes this isn't the right call if you already have used your normal summon, because then if you draw a monster you can't really do anything with it, whether with the spell cards you can still continue your combo. So usually you want to do the chain links a bit different. You usually want to use this one as 2 and this one as 1, because the Rex effect usually is more helpful because this card can summon anything from your hand, so you want to use your spell cards for this. I add a card that I already have, just so I have a discard for next turn anyway, and now I can start off some combos. I go into this one so I can discard one, hopefully draw into something good, and I did. So I can, I always want to try out if this triggers the effect of the cannon if it gets destroyed, and it doesn't. That's kind of what I thought when I played Cyber Dark, so got rid of this one. Could have kept the Book of Moon for their turn anyway. It was a bit too drastic for my liking here. Wasn't necessary, and now we can go into the Link Karibo combo. We can get this card off, get 2 other cards, hopefully something nice. Seal, where the strategist works out quite fine here, and we can summon it out, then go into the Link Karibo combo, get 2 monsters back from the graveyard. We can get our Link monster back, which is very, very amazing. And then we have Donpa. Now we can add 1 card back. Donpa summons 1 card. We can pop 1 card. Strategist still can summon 1 card. And I think we still haven't normal summoned. We can still draw 3 more cards. You can see the resource gain is insane once you're like a bit in the deck. And here's where I make a bit of a mistake. I don't think I could have finished this with just the for hires anyway, but linking this off was a bit annoying, because now a Deco Talker, yeah, well, it can't attack, neither can Mothman, because that is one of the effects of the for hire cards. If you would have thought they don't have any locks, but they do have some, because monsters that aren't for hire can't attack that turn. So keep that one in mind, but it doesn't really matter. I just create some space here so I can still summon stuff from the graveyard, because I still have one Rex here, so I can trigger Donpa during their turn. And we have targeting protection of some kind. I decided not to set all my cards just for the other turn. I probably should have set one more Forbidden Chalice here, just making sure I have enough resources for the follow-up as well, if they manage to somehow break my board, which Cyber Dragons can do quite easily. So maybe 2 negations would have been better, but I thought we have one of the pops that we can trigger with either Mayhem, or we can trigger with the Rex and Graveyard. We have one Book of Moon and one Monster Negate and targeting protection, and we can draw 3 cards, and we have Nibiru, so I thought we should be fine, but obviously things can go wrong here, so that is something to keep in mind. Now they use the effect of the Cyber Dragon in the graveyard, so they can special summon another one. Now they can special summon another one, and I thought, let's draw 3 cards, let's pop one of those so they cannot go into a Link 2 that might help them, and they are forced to use Cyberload Fusion here, very, very good for us. They go into Eternity, which technically isn't probably the best play, but if we don't have a card that deals with it attack-wise, and it doesn't look like we do have, because we already went into some kind of crazy board and none of it does, then they could win the game just off the back of Eternity Dragon, because we cannot destroy it by card effects, nor can we target it with card effects, and that is kind of what this deck does. We still have a Kaiju though, and we do actually have multiple options in the extra deck that gets rid of it, especially with Access Code Talk is probably not a good play anyway, which we don't have, but they don't know this. They have Cyberdark Impact. I didn't think this card would ever see play or use its effect, and I thought, yeah, okay, that's nice, but let's Book of Moon this. We already tried out what happens if you do, and yeah, that's exactly what happens now, and now we can just finish them, because there's plenty of stuff we can be doing to get rid of their plays. Now send this card back, and we go into Raster Liger, Access Code Budget Hero card, because with this one we can get over 4,000 attack points, and at that point we can draw some more. They get a Cyber Dragon, but it doesn't really matter. We have a crazy card advantage at this point, and enough attack points to finish the game at this point. Let's move on to the last duel. After we've seen how much of an advantage this deck can generate, can this get even better? We shall find out. And last replay, we got to go first again, playing against some 60 card pile, which is very interesting. I think it's like some kind of Dark Magician thing. Obviously we can't really look at the deck list because this is the World Championship qualifier. I would have loved to tell you all about the deck, but sadly I can only tell you as much as I can see, and we have a very, very nice combo. Here's what I've been talking about earlier. I think it would have been a lot better here to chain link it the way that I didn't do it, so this 2 and this 1, because then we would have been able to 100% get this, and unless, well, not 100%, Infinite Impermanence and Effect Veiler are still a thing, but Ash Blossom would have been a bit less problematic here. So I decided to go for Wiz here for the Surge, because I thought this way I can get all my combo out, because now I have Donpa on board, I can Surge the Raphael, and I have the Wiz on board, so lots of different plays that we can be doing. The only thing is that matters is we lack some cards in hand, but I hoped to get into them somehow. If it's not by Folgo's draw effect during their turn, I hopefully is by Raphael's effect. We're hopefully getting into 1 for hire, and there's 1 for hire, so we are absolutely fine for one of the discards, and the other one, technically Rex can help us a little bit with this, but Folgo should also be somewhat fine. We still have an Infinite Impermanence and Book of Moon, so this is a very, very strong board. They use the whole Dark Magician combo. At this point I use the effect to summon back Wiz, so I see I have a Spell Trap negate, because obviously they use lots of spell traps. That triggers Donpa. Donpa pops the Dark Magician. We also get some life points, and they concede. We would have thrown 3 cards. Very, very short duel, but you can see this would have not ended too well for them, although Book of Moon and Infinite Permanence doesn't do all that much against Dark Magician. Sometimes if they use stuff in the Imperm column, that can be, but I kind of placed it a bit in the wrong column. I wanted to play around Mech Knights in case that's a Mech Knight deck. 60 card can always hold some surprises, but like this we finished the duel with 11,000 life points, and also with still 2 negates up 2 set cards, and possibly a draw 3 here, which would have been triggered. So very, very nice. You can see the deck has very good potential, but it also is shut down very easily. You haven't seen this that much in these 5 replays, but there will be occasions where Effect Veiler or Infinite Impermanence shuts you down completely because you cannot go into any of your combos, or if they just negate the fall go as well, that can be annoying, and you have lots of choke points in this deck. Your opponent doesn't need to know the deck at all to just negate this, and it will probably hurt you. So there's that. But if you don't have any of this, if they don't get to you with these kind of effects, then this deck is very explosive. I mean, draw 3 every single turn sounds broken because it is. It's crazy card advantage, but to get to that stage, you sometimes have to be a tiny bit lucky. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, I hope you have a nice day.